Hey guys, Doug Giles here. It's Warriors, Rich.
And Wild Man with my Wild Man.
Wild Man.
Man card.
Hey, I was at this speaking engagement, and I was talking to him about the Warriors and Wild Men man card.
Yep.
And the guy's like, that's a great idea. He's like, how much does one of those run? And I go, $25. And he's like, $25, man, that's a little too expensive. It's like, are you kidding me? I go, how much did your fat ass spend for lunch today, huh? Where'd you go? Went to Five Guys. Five Guys, I don't know if you've been there lately, Rich.
Five Guys, the 5 doesn't stand for dollars.
Yeah, no, they're very proud of their grub. And so 2 people, and he said that would, and again, we're not talking about, quadruple burgers or anything like that. I think it was maybe a double meat, side of sweet potato fries or whatever, and a Coke. And 2 people, a little over $30. And I'm guessing he and his amigo probably crapped that out, 5-6 minutes later? Yeah. Now, what we're selling here, folks, is a movement. It's a team. It's a bunch of warriors and wild men who have a road mark, Rich, a sign, a symbol of them standing up for freedom, family, flag, and faith, that every time they do it, they ding it with a hammer and a chisel or something like that. And it reminds them that they've been kicking ass for the last few months.
That's right.
And Rich, I think that's worth $25. What do you?
Well, here's what I think, Doug. A lot of things in life are worth $25 and a lot of things aren't. And it's like, what are you buying? Are you just buying a piece of metal? Well, you can get your own, you can make your own, you can do whatever you want. But you're buying into something and you're becoming a part of something. And a portion of what they're giving, it's part of the mission of what we do. It's mission giving.
Right.
It's making a difference. So, if people want to, complain about what they're paying for, complain at Starbucks. Don't complain to me. I don't want to hear it. I said it at church this week, and I whipped it out, and I said, man card. I'm not trying to sell stuff. We're making it available to you. If you want it, get one. If you don't. And I said, and if you think $25 is a lot and you can't afford it, get a freaking job and buy the things you want, because that's how real life works. And that's how I started my church service, so that's all right.
Yeah, can you imagine saying something like that? $25, that's just too much. First of all, no, it's not. Your porn accounts cost more than that, and you know it. The hamburgers cost more than that. You're just
Starbucks is more than that.
Yeah, I call it $6. You're just a cheap ass, and again, to those who are contemplating it, maybe on a budget, a student, something like that, or maybe down on your luck right now, and that $25 is buying you, a sack of beans and rice for the next 30 days to subsist. The money is going to a 501c3. It is mission oriented, and our mission is take dudes and make them providers, protectors, hunter, and hero. Good soil, plant that good seed, and watch God give you a righteous return.
Yeah.
All right, Rich, enough of us trying to hawk our man card. If people don't get it, then, we can't make them get it. Yeah. But let's talk about something that I find...
Guns?
Yeah, I've got my... Hold on, let me pull mine out.
Look, this is my Derringer. This is my Bond Arms Derringer that shoots Colt 45 long. And you know what else it shoots,
Beautiful.
Doug? You know what else it shoots?
410 shells.
410 shotgun shells with 6 copper discs, anti-personnel. You don't want none of this bad boy right here. This will wreck your world. You know what I carry this for, Doug?
Rattlesnakes.
Fun. Because I have a Glock 19 that's loaded, extra magazine, ready to roll. But you know what this is for? Good time. That's what this is for. This is because I like to party.
Well, I like the Derringer, man.
It's got the Texas Star on it.
Love the old school type weapons. Have you seen the Howdah? It's a 45. Nope. It's a double barrel shotgun that has rifled barrels, so it can fly under it being a proper pistol. But what it is, it's a sawed-off 410 shotgun.
Whoa!
And it's the coolest old school looking self-defense weapon. To me, I've born in the wrong day and time. I should have been born 100 years ago. I like all the old weapons. I like all that old stuff, man. And man, talk about a bedside rock your world apparatus. That
sounds like fun. Doesn't sound like that fun to shoot.
I think it's got like I think it has 12 or 14-inch barrels. I don't know. But what a badass looking little weapon, man.
I'll have
Little
to check that out.
sawed-off 410 shotgun. Get it for like $1,200, $1,300. And yeah, you know, it's not going to be there for an extended gunfight, but you get some, you know, meth head going to try to knock over your house, and your dog alerts you and wakes you up in the bedroom. You can grab the howdah, and it's got, you know, it's stuffed with some 3-inch 410 shells with, I don't know, maybe 4 shot or 6, because you don't want to over-penetrate into the kiddo's room. And then you blast that jackass into Dante's Easy Bake with the left and the right barrel. That's a good day, man. That's a good day.
You know what the problem with that is, like with my little Derringer here with the 410 shotgun shells, is it's got the anti-personnel 6 copper disc backed up by the BBs. It penetrates. I was shooting 25 yards with this thing, which it's not fun to shoot with the 410 shotgun shells. That's nasty. But it maintains a group about that big at 25 yards, 6 copper discs. That's a bad day right there, bro. That is a bad day. Look at this, Doug.
But see what I would do. Hey, you smoking? Hey, what I would do, man, is that I would lead with the shot, because your first barrel is going to be the close encounter of the strange kind. The second one's where you want to reach out and touch them, and that's where I'd come in with either the 6 pellets, you know, or a slug or something like that. You want to go out a little longer on the second one, because he's hauling ass in case you just, you know, clipped him in the gut or the butt.
I like that.
Or
I like to
something like
think I
that.
would use something fancy like that, but I'm probably going to pull out my plastic Glock and let
You gotta
whole bunch
go
of
old
drama.
school, man. You gotta go old school.
Well, you know what? I have a really beautiful Kimber 45. You've seen it. And I saw an ad one time, and it says, show your Kimber to your friends and your Glock to your enemy. My Kimber's too nice, man. I don't want to put a scratch on it. I don't want no blood on it.
Right.
I don't want to. The Glock, it's like a hammer. You just throw it over there.
Yeah,
you know?
it's a tool.
Yeah. Anyway, what are we talking about today?
Hey, speaking of tools, you know, you and I have discussed this before about how the left is wanting to take your little kitty. Really creepy to me. And they want to educate him according to their standards. Yes. And, you know, Bernadine Dorn and Bill Ayers learned many moons ago. They were the principals in the Weather Underground. And Barack Obama's crazy radical leftist friends, who tried to blow up, I believe, the Pentagon and a couple of police stations in New York City.
Yep.
They realized, Rich, that, you know what? These bombs bring negative attention to our cabal and what we're trying to accomplish here in the United States of acrimony. And they decided, how could we best serve the purpose of hijacking our nation and creating the Marxist-Leninist state for it? And so what they did is that they became educators. Yeah. And daft parents have for decades. And look, when you and I went to school, I don't remember, you know, people whizzing on America. I remember us doing the pledge and saying prayers and doing all that stuff.
Yep.
Were there anti-American radicals back then? Of course. Was it systematically drummed into the kids' our noggins, when we were young ones just going off to, you know, elementary school in Mayberry RFD? No. Absolutely not, man. I got pro-American sentiments when I went to school. What about you, Rich?
Oh yeah, that's how it was, man. We
it's not
we
that
said the pledge. Nobody was against America. And look, man, I lived 15 minutes. I grew up 15 minutes from the border. Everybody was still all about America. This stuff's, people can say whatever they want. This kind of garbage in America, this stuff's new.
Yeah. And, you know, it's been a slow train coming. That's the reason why, you know, parents are asleep to it. And that's why a lot of parents think, well, you know, I went to public school and public school wasn't that bad. Hey, we're talking a whole different ball of wax, Cha-Cha.
It's a whole different public school.
It ain't the same, man. We had this guy on, did a video of this black brother who went to check out the school that his kids went to, Rich, and said he kind of felt a little iffy about it. Lived in a good neighborhood. Everybody's like, yay, this school's great and it's good, and so he's just vying off, you know, the press from the peers, and he rocks up to the school, man. As soon as he walks into the school, brother, it says something to the effect that we don't judge, and they had a big rainbow flag in the entryway. And this is not like a liberal arts school.
Yeah.
It's not like theater or anything like that. It's frickin' elementary school, Rich. Elementary.
You're not talking about university
Yeah,
that
not
somebody
college,
has a choice to go to or not.
Yeah, it's kids.
Yeah.
Kids, man. As soon as your kid walks into university, back in our day, I expected, the safe sex kits and the trial marriage arrangements and all the other weird stuff. But elementary, my brother, elementary. Let me ask you a question. Do you think sexual issues and sexual identity politics is like super important for 5-year-olds? You think they give a rat's ass
Nope.
about what plumbing, they need to do?
No, I don't. I think parents are dealing with these issues, not just because of what's happening in the school, but what's happening with their friends, what's happening on the media, what's happening on television. They have access, even as little kids, to YouTube, all the social media. They have access to all these things that they shouldn't even be concerned about. They shouldn't even be, those things should be the farthest from their mind. They should be developing some different things
Right.
at that time in their life. They shouldn't be developing their ideas about sexuality. Now, about gender and gender roles, those are things that you're learning at that age. So confusing them with sexual issues and sexual perversion when you're trying to teach your kids proper gender roles, which, I'm bringing that up, gender roles. People are going to lose their ever-loving minds. I don't care, Doug. I don't care.
Yeah,
Piss
I think
me
it's
off.
just a. I
I'm
think it's
mad
just
right
a.
now.
I think it's just a window in a sordid era of American history, because I believe with this insane push for gender neutrality and the over-sexualization of all the kids that the left's trying to ram down our throats, I think there's going to be a big cultural backlash. Kind of like how everybody was saying in Western Europe, immigration's great. Come on, refugees.
Yeah.
Come on, people who clearly don't want to embrace our Constitution, if some of those places even have one, our way of life, embrace our history and our culture. But no, they come in there and spawn terrorist acts, and now Western Europe's a hotbed for it. And there's a backlash against it, man. You look at what's happening to Merkel. She's losing steam over the immigration issues. You look at the chaos and the enclaves in Paris and other big cities like London and all of middle Great Britain, inundated with Sharia courts, overrun with radical Islam. They've got rape camps and female genital mutilation. And some of the Europeans are going, WTF, man, it's time to Brexit if people want to buy into this. And that's what I think is going to happen with the left trying to over-sexualize the kiddos. And I got to tell the parents this, and Rich, people hate me when I say this. Don't send your kids to public school.
Yeah.
If you want Caesar to educate your kids, then don't be surprised if your children turn out to be Romans.
Yeah, if your kids start acting just like the culture you send them to.
Exactly.
Well, think about this, Doug. Here's a problem even for Christians. Okay, let's say I want to send my kids to public school, and they do. All right. Here's what happens. They never miss a day of school, and then they travel on the weekend and they miss church. And they can say whatever they want, but what message are you sending your kids, okay? Then they wonder why their kids grow up and go to college and stop going to church. It's because you taught them that. They're living what you modeled in your home. Your kids need to go, and I always ask people, why don't you pull them out of school and come back in time for church? And Doug, they look like I spoke the biggest heresy. They're like, because that's their God, the education system. So it's a couple different problems there. One is we're worshiping the education system because we bought into the lie that somebody who gets the easiest 4-year degree at university is now better equipped to train and teach our children than we are. Which they might be better equipped to socialize your children into the social agenda of what the world has for them, but they're not better equipped to train them in your morals and values. And reading, writing, arithmetic, Doug, come on, they don't teach that in schools anyway. Get a book, teach it to your kids, hire a tutor if you don't know what to do. And so the problem is they're socializing.
Google it on YouTube.
Well, here's the deal. In Arizona, teachers got a raise, good teachers get a raise. I don't care. Here's my problem. Stop asking for more money and saying things like, well, what's the value of a teacher? What are they worth? Well, you've heard of capitalism, right? There's more teachers than we can shake a stick at. So you know what they're worth? They're worth how many there are. You don't get to make as much as a brain surgeon. Well, it's more important. Well, not as many people need brain surgery. Not as many people can do it. That's how it works. They're in demand. They get paid more. It's like women's basketball. They're like, the top players in women's basketball make $53,000 a year. It's like, you're aware that you guys don't bring in any money, right? Like, nobody pays. Okay.
You see those empty stands?
Yeah, nobody gives a crap. It's not about equality. It's about dollar signs. Teachers want to make more. Well, you're doing a job that everybody's doing. You want to make more? Go work at a private school where people are paying money for better teachers who are hired according to their work and not how long you've been hanging out, sucking off the government. Which brings up this other thing. My kids would go to school, Doug, and when I started homeschooling my son, he was done in 4 hours. So why is he at school for 9 hours? What the hell are you doing with my kid for 9 hours if I can get all the schoolwork done in 4?
Yeah, I'd say, because girls are normally smarter than us knuckle-dragging guys, and generally speaking. Yeah, Hannah and Regis, they're finished 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is that, and here's what I like about the anti-homeschooling crowd. They're like, well, Doug, your kids are going to be little retards. They're going to be unsocialized. And my retort was, are you calling that Thunderdome that you call a school a place for the proper socialization of my kids?
Yeah,
Here's what I'm going to do.
My kids have no culture.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to let my poor little rubes, my little homeschooled little house on the prairie daughters, I'm going to let them socialize with, I don't know, the Gracies and the Valenti brothers.
There you go.
And 480 other world-class fighters. And we'll just do a little wager and see how they all fare like 20 years from now in regards to being socialized. How's that?
Well, check this out. You want to get really controversial? Rich people send their kids away to private schools in high school, prep schools. That's what they do. You know what poor people do? They keep their kids at home until they get married at 39 years old, and they treat them like puppies. One person equips them for a purpose. The other person treats them like an emotional crutch. And then they say, and now you owe me, so go get me some money. That's how poor people think. Well, I thought about that. And because I'm not a rich person, I thought, well, I don't have the money to send my kid to some school. And I had 4 kids, so I don't have $100,000 a year to send my kids to all these schools, right? So you know what I did? I sent my kids to live with influential people that I knew around the world. My daughter, Brooke, was in Bogota, Colombia, 3 months. She was in South Africa for 3 months. She lived in Indonesia for 3 months and then lived in Philippines for 3 months. At 16 years old till she was 17, 1 year out of the country, she stayed in the home of a senator. She stayed in the home of a pastor of a church of 14,000 people in South Africa, stayed at the house of a guy who runs one of the largest orphanage organizations and church planting organizations in Indonesia, and in Philippines stayed also at a friend's house who's a pastor of a huge church and was the #1 graduate from their top university. And so if you don't have access to sending your kids to these super expensive schools, you can still get your kids, when you have relationships, get your kids around those people. And then they think, this is who I want to be, not this turd at class who sits there and picks his nose in class, and then this is my goal, is to be like this idiot that sits next to me because people laugh at him.
Yeah, I've always been of the persuasion, get your kids around great people and great things, and as far away from the teenage fart cloud as possible. And call me what, Rich? Call me rude, call me crude, but
You're
you know
rude
what?
Rude and crude.
Rich, you got one shot at this, parents. You got one shot at this. And OMG, if you don't pay attention, you can F up. And look, not all teachers are bad. My wife's been a teacher for 17 plus years.
And she's an awesome person.
And the kid would be very privileged to be under her tutelage. But it's getting weird in school. And I sent you over this link, man. And if people think we're full of crap, go over to clashdaily.com. Look at our post called Major Texas Library debuts drag queen story time for the kiddos. Now, check this out. Local drag queen, this is in Houston, local drag queen called Blackberry. And Rich, this particular drag queen is not one of those ones, you know, that you go, wow, that's a really pretty guy slash girl. This dude is humongous. Looks like Fat Albert from the big cartoon show back in the day. Got a beard, full on beard. He's bloated. He's got more chins than a Chinese phone book. You can hide small toys in the folds of his fat. And here he is, dressed up in this little Annie Oakley costume. If I was a kid watching that, I would be, Mom, Dad, what did I do wrong? Why are you punishing me to put me before this beast? So he spends an hour reading books to rooms full of children. And here's what Blackberry says, Rich. He said, I grew up with a lot of kids around me, and I like to break the stigma of drag and queer culture with the kids. I like to get everyone happy and excited and not scared about things that are different to them. Again, local drag queen in Houston, drag queen story time. And if people think I'm full of crap, go over to clashdaily.com, check it out, or just Google drag queen story time into your favorite search engine and get ready to have your frickin' pantyhose blown off your legs.
Yeah, Doug,
break the stigma of queer.
I
didn't use the word queer. Blackberry.
Let me start off by reading a little statement here, okay? This is from Wikipedia. The First Amendment to the United States Constitution prevents Congress from making any law respecting an establishment of religion, prohibiting the free exercise of religion, or abridging the freedom of speech, the freedom of press, the right to peaceably assemble, or to petition for governmental. So what I want to say that first. Here's why. Because Facebook is definitely going to flag this as hate speech, and they're going to take this video down. But I don't live according to Facebook. I live in America according to the laws of America. And if I didn't, I live according to the laws of the Bible first. And I have a freedom of religion, and I have freedom of speech. So according to my religion, I'm going to say the Bible is completely against this kind of perversion. It's wrong. It's not different. It's wrong according to Scripture. Here's why I say that. Not only do I have the right to say that, that's what the Bible teaches. I also have the right to teach my children that the person that's doing this is a freak. Not just a freak, perverted, sexually twisted, which I'm sure he is. People will take exception to that. Do not care. Refer back to my first statement. But not only are they a freak sexually, they're also a freak of nature. Nature knows better than that. It's disgusting. And I'm going to tell my kids that. And if somebody says that's hate speech, you know what hate speech is? Sitting my children down with a drag queen before they've entered any time of puberty or understanding anything about sexuality and twisting up their mind. Puberty is already a confusing time for everybody when they're going through, men and women, you know, young boys and girls. And that transition is already confusing. It's difficult enough. We don't need them giving perverted, twisted people's ideas and lifestyles as a positive alternate choice. These kids, you don't have any choice. Your choice is I got to navigate this and come out the other side. Not I'm going to navigate this and come out 1% of the population because we're supposed to say it's equal. It's not equal. It's perverted. It's twisted. It's a freak show. And you know what? You used to have to pay for freak show. Now you can get it free at your local library. And I call BS. I call PC BS. And I also call, I don't care if you hate it. Say whatever you want. Too bad.
Yeah, I think it was Moses, but what does Moses know? I think it was Moses that said that men shouldn't take on the appearance of women, women shouldn't take on the appearance of men. I believe Santo Pablo also said in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, I believe, made a distinction between homosexuality and effeminacy, and he said that the twain won't inherit the kingdom of God. And that's your religion, that's your faith that's been preached for 2,000 years. It's the Bible, and you have the right to say it. And anybody who tries to stop you from saying it is coming against the First Amendment. Yeah, and that's why I think anybody who stands prophetically for the Word of God, again, which has kept buoyant Western civilization for many, many moons, and has created an environment of freedom, peace, and prosperity, and benevolence that's flowed into 97% of the world. Anybody, especially if you're white, if you're evangelical, and if you're a male, if you stand up for those verities, then I hope you got some thick skin, because just like you said, man, they're going to come after you. I was watching Facebook before doing a hearing yesterday. I think it was Facebook, Twitter, and Google. Not the top guys like Zuckerberg and whoever the other cats are that run those big tech platforms. But they said, yes, we believe in freedom of expression and freedom of speech to an extent, but our companies are privately held and we have rules.
Yep.
And these ruling beasts of big tech, their rules on their platform, even though they gave, a kind of a little blow kiss to the First Amendment, their rules trump the Constitution.
Yep.
It's their way or the highway. And this is the message. Queers, and that's what they call themselves. That's not, me. That's not
a
besmirching
derogatory
them.
term.
Yeah,
it's what they say.
They're calling themselves that. They want that to be normative for your kids. Now, Rich, you know me. I don't care what anybody does. Just don't ask me to pay for it, and don't be surprised if I ridicule it.
And don't teach it to my freaking kids.
Yeah, that's
don't teach it to my kids. You don't, Doug. Check it out. If you start talking to my kids and you start saying stuff that I disagree with, I'm gonna stop you right in the middle of that, and I'm gonna say, Doug, negative. And then I'm gonna say to my kids, we don't believe that. We don't roll like that. You know why? Because I'm their dad. It's my right and my responsibility.
Here's the thing that just blows my mind, and it just shows that kids are their pawns. And the reason why, they're going for the kiddos, because like you said, Rich, their brains aren't developed.
Yep.
They don't know right for wrong. Some of them can't even tie their shoes yet, but they want, this imago in their brain, permanently conscripted, that this bearded guy wearing this nasty dress and pantyhose and 14 size stilettos, well, that's normative. That's to be understood and embraced, instead of like, man, that is anormal. That is an aberration of humanity. Now, I don't wish him harm. I don't wish that he'd kill himself. I don't care what these people do. But why can't they just let our little kids and the little kids in the neighborhood ride a damn bike, color a book, read some Dr. Seuss, maybe some
go to the library,
run.
Watch a movie, read
do
a
something,
book.
That's kind of kid-like, instead of introduce them to this stuff. Here's something that I would like old BlackBerry to maybe think about showing the kids. And show them anal warts.
I gotta stop on that part right there. His name's BlackBerry. Okay. It's not Joe. It's not Trisha. It's not Cindy. It's not Bill. It's BlackBerry. That's an intentionally provocative name. It's like a stripper name. Don't tell me I'm BlackBerry and I'm supposed to act like that's your name. Get the hell out of here with that. Sorry. Carry on.
Yeah, it's the library says in its Heights Library in Houston, it says, well, this is amazingly unique. You got that right, sister.
Yeah.
That is ultimately something that we strive for sure. We definitely, at this particular branch, at the Houston Public Library, hey, guys in Houston, wake the blank up, okay? And I'll give you a good example why in the power of opposition here in Uno Momento. The library continues and says, we always want to promote diversity, understanding, inclusion, and fun. Hey, you think anal warts are fun? You think having your rectum ripped is fun? You think having your bedroom and all your sheets smeared with feces?
Hey, Doug, you know what the problem is with what you're saying?
No tomorrow.
You know what
is
the problem?
A lot of fun.
You know what the problem is with what you're saying, Doug?
Yeah.
Is you're speaking the reality of it, and they want you to have a romantic view of it, and they say things like this. They make their eyes real big and they go, "There's not enough love in the world." We're not talking about love. We're not talking about love. We're talking about twisted perversion, sexual perversion. Because whenever my kids would bring that up, and they were older, they were teens, and they would bring up this type of stuff, I would say, hey, we're talking about sodomy. And they're like, why do you always have to bring that up? And I say, never forget to connect the act from their purpose. That it's not just, I want to love somebody else. You can love whoever you want. Doug, you're my friend. I love you. No perversion in that. I got a lot of guys that are my friends in the church. I love them. Got friends outside the church.
Back at you.
I love them. There's no perversion in that. So the problem is not love. Nobody has a problem with love. What we have a problem with is your act of perversion. And if you want to do that, do whatever you want. Don't teach it to my kids. That's where I'm at with it.
Now, Rich, correct me if I'm wrong, man. But isn't do you remember Mark Foley? He was a congressman from Florida.
Yep.
That got busted because he was grooming pages that worked at the Capitol during the summer. And, some of them he had sexual relationships with. Some of them he just got into drinking and drugs and, tickle parties or whatever the hell they do on Capitol Hill when they're supposed to be doing, our bidding, our business. Foley was... of all the other things that he was called, twisted, queer, perverted, I remember them talking, pretty bluntly about the grooming aspect of bringing young kids into homosexuality. Same thing with priests and altar boys, grooming them, as they're coming up through the ranks with their little incense pots and whatever they do as altar boys. They were called groomers. Groomers for sexual activity.
Come on, man.
And that was predatory, and that was condemned. And now, let me jump back to this numbnuts over here at Houston. She said this, Aaron Burnett says, I want to expose them to things that they don't get to see every day. Really? How about murder? You gonna bring in a murderer next?
Just take them downtown to the ghetto. They'll see. You want to see unique? You want to see things you don't see every day? Take them down to the ghetto. Take them down.
She goes on to say, I want it to become more normal and more accepted. And Aaron Burnett brought 2 of her kids to the event. Drag Queen Story Time. It was a one-time event at the Heights Library, but other Houston Public Library locations are featuring it in the coming months. Now, Rich, I don't know if I told you this story before, but when Hannah was in middle school, she came home one day, and this before, obviously, we pulled her out. 12 years old, not 17, not 18, getting ready to graduate and get into the big world that we live in. She came home, she was upset, and it's like, what are you upset about? And she goes, well, her entire grade was given this project for graduation where they had to write a paper on the plight of a 13-year-old gay boy. And she was like, are you kidding me? The plight of a 13-year-old gay boy. And she brought it home to me, and I'm like, WTF? And here's what I did. I don't have it anymore, but at that time, Rich, I had a black Armani suit. Beautiful Italian design. Black shirt. I look like Johnny Cash. And I strode into the principal's office after she said she would meet me on it when we talked the day before. And we were in Miami. And she said, come on in, Mr. Giles, female principal. She had the other female teachers there, not a dude in the room except for me. And she said that, that I was bigoted and that, I shouldn't be homophobic. Already, cranking, with the verbiage and assuming, that I hate, human beings or this poor 13-year-old kid who's more confused than a termite and a yo-yo. And I asked him why the injection of anal sex with members of the same sex to my 12-year-old daughter. Why is that important for her to write an empathetic treatise on what this kid could possibly be going through?
Yeah, are we educating my daughter or are we socializing her?
Well, here's what they said. They said, well, you see, Mr. Giles, is that this young man, and they held up a People magazine. She goes, he is in the news. Everybody's talking about him. And they had like a little corner picture of this poor kid that I hope he's all right, So they got this picture of this
kid.
Yeah, they got this picture of this poor little 13-year-old kid that's been splashed all over the nation. That he's homosexual. And I said, well, I don't agree, and my daughter doesn't agree with his lifestyle choices. And I looked at the cover, moved my eyes from checking out him in the corner of the magazine, and guess who's on the front cover, Rich?
Who?
Bigger than Dallas, bigger than that guy's face, Eminem. So I said, why don't you do a story? Why don't they do, their little thesis on Eminem? And she said, we don't agree with his lifestyle. And I said, well, who are you to judge? And bro, it was all over. But I left with a little asterisk, an exhortation, as Paul would say. I said, I've got a radio show. It's number one in the South Florida market. It's on a 100,000 watt FM station. Probably got 250,000 listeners each night that I go on. If you guys don't cease and desist, I'm going to tell them the name of the school. I'm going to tell them exactly who you are and who all your other acolytes and buddies are trying to ramrod this down my 12-year-old daughter's throat and about 900 other students. And we're not going to call for violence. That's not what we do. But we're going to give your Twitter handle, your school's phone number, your Facebook page, and all that other crap so that people can respond directly to you. Because as far as I'm concerned, probably most parents don't even know what you're trying to teach their kid. And if it weren't for me going there and they said I was the only person that had any kind of problem enough to stand up to the teacher and to the administration, they would have had to write on it. But I did it, and they pulled it from the entire grade level. So my whole point in this is that Houston parents in other places, it's your right, it's your damn kid to stand and tell them, no, it ain't going to happen. If you're going to push it, then I'm going to pull my kid from this school because this has crap all to do with what I believe is sane and appropriate to be putting to the squishy, pliable brains of a little kid. That's what parents do.
And that's your right, Doug. That's not, but again,
right, man.
It's not just your right, Doug. It's your responsibility before God, to your wife, and to your kids. That is your responsibility to determine what they are learning and what's age appropriate for your kids. That is your right and responsibility.
Yeah, and by the way, anybody who's listening and is going to selectively edit some of the contents that Rich and I have addressed here with boldness. Both my daughters grew up around gay people that cut their hair. Some of them came to our church. None of them were ridiculed or besmirched or spoken down to. We showed love and patience and shared the gospel and prayed with every one of them. And you know what? You could call them up today. I don't know what they're doing. And they'd tell you, man, the Gileses are legit.
Yep.
They don't hate us. They didn't deride us. They disagreed with us, but we never felt like we were despised.
Right, because
so
you love them
that.
and you treated them like people. But here's the deal, Doug. Today, hate speech is defined as disagreeing with me.
Right.
If you disagree with me and you don't approve, you're a hater. Somebody said that to me on Twitter yesterday. They said, your guys' podcast is full of hate. So what that means is I disagree with everything you're saying because we don't hate anyone. Who are we hating? Our whole purpose is to help. And I know, like, for you and your wife, but also in our church, we reach out to people that are homosexuals. We love them. They need to hear the gospel. They have to deal with God with those things. They have to answer to Scripture. We care about them. So we're not here to beat them down, man.
Yeah, I'd like to tell them, if we have people that are homosexual that are listening to the podcast, hey, come close to the screen. Come put your ear up to the speakers. There's things in the Bible that I don't like, and I just have to embrace them. Yeah, it
and
really
you have to change. And you have to change.
It really poo-poos my anger issues. I was a 10th degree horn dog growing up. It kind of frowns upon adultery and all that other stuff. And Dougie has to change. Yeah. And so don't think you're, the lone wolf in this stuff. There's plenty of things. And R.C. Sproul told me one time, Rich, he goes, if you want to grow in Christ and really flower, as a disciple, he said, do two things. Study the things that confuse you and study the things that you hate.
Absolutely.
He said, you'll grow really quick if you focus on the stuff that is the most offensive to your person, to your penchants, to your bents and proclivities,
Yep.
just kind of meditate on the verbum Dei in regards to what Yahweh says about that, and you'll rise like a phoenix
Yep.
out of Mesa.
You know, it's interesting you said that, because yesterday I got into it with a pastor, yesterday and the day before, on Twitter. And it was because our political views were different. And I said, hey, before you make your statement, you should preface it with, this is not a biblical perspective. These are my personal opinions. And so we got into a little bit back and forth. And anyway, today I private messaged him. And I said, hey, I want to apologize for being so aggressive with you publicly on Twitter. I said, I'm not against you. I don't just argue with anybody who disagrees with me. But I came to you as a brother. We need to present a unified front. And I should not have done it publicly. I should have told you privately. And I told him, I need to hear more from you so I can develop more and better perspectives. So if you're open to it, I'd like to continue talking to you. He has like 45.
That's not bad for a bigot, Rich. That's pretty nice of you.
And he has 45,000 followers on Twitter, you know, so he's not some guy over in a corner somewhere. And so he wrote me back, Doug, within minutes, and told me that he appreciated it, that he understands that emotions are high on these topics and issues. And he explained some things from his perspective and said that he also looked forward to talking to me more. And you know what, Doug? I didn't do that so I could say, now I can teach this guy. I literally thought, even if I don't agree, I need to hear the perspectives that this guy has. I want to hear those things. That's how I'm going to learn. I'm not going to learn by staying the same, surrounding myself with people that believe the exact same thing. We can't be afraid of listening to people that are different. But you want to know something, Doug? I'm 49 years old. I'm not a 5-year-old kid going to the library to hear a drag queen named Blackberry.
Yeah, that's why I wanted you and Zeke, and I sent it out to others to watch the HBO special Believe.
Yeah.
Love Loud, the lead singer for Imagine Dragon, a Mormon missionary, spearheading attempts through the Love Loud movement to try to get the Mormon Church to back off their condemnation of homosexuality. And I was telling this one person that watched it also, that's like, dude, you got to be kidding me. That was disturbing. It was offensive to me. I go, you know what? There's something interesting that, and again, I agree. You know, it was. If you believe the word of God, you're like, oh my gosh, this is some of the greatest stuff to combat a strong stance on against homosexuality. It was a brilliant thing that whomever produced it, they really got the message across that the Mormon Church sucks and it's anachronistic. And according to them, it needs to be more relevant and update. I said, aside from that, you know what I got from that? I go, if my son or my daughter, or if my grandson or my daughters, turn out to be lesbians or my son's gay, do I want him to commit suicide? Do I want him to feel ostracized by a frickin' evangelical church filled with, or Mormon church filled with white people? Do I want him to hear hate, coming from the body of Christ? Absolutely not.
No.
So it's weird. It's like, it had me, on this empath level as a parent, trying to think, because they were talking to parents whose kids off themselves just because of the ostracization, or being ostracized rather, there in the Mormon tabernacle. Mm-hmm. And bro, I got to tell you, as much as I would disagree with my kid, oh my gosh, would I have big problems if I had some frickin' rabid Mormon or anybody else, so berate and shame my kid to the point that they frickin' hung themselves in their closet. Because it's not worth it.
That's the thing, Doug. We have to love them. Love is unconditional. And because I love you doesn't mean I approve of your behavior. And people have to understand that. If we're like Rich, that with our kids, Doug, like I don't approve of your behavior, but I love you unconditionally forever. That doesn't just apply to our kids. That applies to people outside the church. So because we don't approve of homosexuality does not make us haters. We still love them. We don't approve of it because it's against Scripture.
Well, one of the persons, I can't remember if it was in this documentary or another one that I watched, they brought up 1 Corinthians 13 about love never fails.
Yeah.
And they're saying love is patient, love is kind, doesn't seek its own, it's not boastful, not proudful, not arrogant. And then they stopped. And it's like, you need to keep quoting, because it also says that true biblical love that God is, and that we are known by our love for one another, and we're supposed to love our neighbor. It also says that this love, if they would have kept quoting 1 Corinthians 13, rejoices not in unrighteousness, but rejoices in the truth.
Yep.
But they stopped. And then, if you take that little McNugget of Paul's famous passage there in the 13th chapter of 1 Corinthians, and you just stop there, you'd be spraying, gold glitter, pixie dust, and unicorns on everything. But again, it has, like Paul also said in Romans 12, is that our love must be without hypocrisy.
Yep.
Okay. We what? We hate what is evil, and we cling to what is good.
Yep.
Yeah. But you don't hear that. And it's and listen, I get it, and it was very effective, and I recommend people watch it, because that's a thing. And like you said, having these discussions in a civil way where two parties disagree, that's where you get consensus. That's where you get true progress. And it doesn't mean that we all throw away convictions and blend into this one, just opaque worldview.
Well, and understanding somebody else's perspective doesn't mean you agree with them. That's what people don't get it. It's like, I can understand why you think that. Doesn't mean I agree and approve of what you're saying. But understanding you, there's no danger in listening and understanding what somebody's trying to say.
It's equally wild. And I've got buddies on social media that are gay. They follow my stuff. They like it. They're like, right on. They don't get offended. They're not freaking out. They're not flipping out. I'll post pictures of me and my wife and my kids, and they'll be in there the first to love it.
Yep.
So I don't think everybody's the radical pink hat, crazy leftists that are trying to force their way down our lives. I like what Dolce and Gabbana, the Italian designers, they were an item for 20 or 30 years or something like that. They're not anymore. And they said no. They said there's marriages between a man and a woman, and we don't believe that gays should adopt. And oh my God, Dolce and Gabbana, they're huge designers.
Freaked everybody out.
They took major heat for it, but they said, you know what? We're Christians. We're Roman Catholic, and we believe in marriages between a man and a woman. And I believe Jesus said that's what God joins together.
Yep.
That people aren't supposed to separate. And so it's not taking it up with me and you. It's taking it up with Jesus. We're just UPS guys. We just deliver the package.
Yep.
We didn't write it, We're just handing it to you. That's what he said.
And let me break this down real quick. It's the same gospel, the same message that's been being preached for 2,000 years. We don't get to come in and change it. You either sign up and you're a Christian, and that's what the Bible says, and that's what the church teaches, or you admit that you are not a Christian and you have your own whatever, and we have no discussion about it. You can believe whatever you want. You could believe, in your coffee cup if you want to. We don't have anything to say about that. But if you say my coffee cup is my salvation and I'm a Christian, no, we call you a heretic according to the basic doctrines of Christianity for 2,000 years. So you're not arguing with us. You can say whatever you want. You can believe whatever you want. I support your right to say and believe whatever you want. You just don't get to say you're a Christian unless you attain to the basic and essential doctrines of Christianity.
And I think those who enter into these dicey waters, that we're traversing right now, again, do it with love, do it with grace, but damn it, do it. Cowardice. I was talking to these group of gentlemen in Houston, big Christian entrepreneur group, very sharp group of guys, and we're talking about masculinity, and this because I've been drumming it, and you've been shouting it from the rooftops. Classical masculinity is provider, protector, hunter, and hero under the governance of Christ as our captain. And obviously those guys were well-to-do, very well-heeled. So I said, you guys obviously got the provider aspect of masculinity. We're not sitting here in the ghetto.
Yeah.
We're in a very nice place, and I saw some very nice cars when I rolled up in my 4Runner. Being from Texas, you dudes are probably hunters, I'm guessing. Of course, I got a big, hoorah out of them on that one. I said, let's talk about being protectors and heroes. I said, with this stuff that's going on in Houston, somebody needs to protect their children from this garbage. Let them be children, damn it.
Yep.
Let this guy, Blackberry, do it, and rah his other drag queen
Go
buddies.
hang out with the other old fat drag queens.
Who are adults, okay?
Stop trying to groom our kids.
Is that a simple can do? And I said in regards to, and what I did for Hannah, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but that was a little act of heroism, standing up, saying, you're not going to do that to my kid. You shouldn't do it to the other kids. Let them be kids, damn it. And then that little small simple act shut everything down. I said, go into this library and confront the librarians and say, really? So Cat in the Hat and C-Spot Run, that's not, Jack and Jill went up the hill, that's not adequate now for the kids?
Now
we need to get them into aggressive weirdness?
You know why?
Yeah, they're trying to convert them.
The library ceased to have a purpose because ain't nobody got no books no more. I know you like my double, triple negatives there. That was all intentional. But there's no books, so what are they going to do? Well, nobody wants to come. Should we have free lunch? Yeah, let's have drag queen hour. Stupid.
So here's what I told the brothers there that were sitting in front of me. I said, when we think of sin, what do we think about? Homosexuality, man. Cigar smoking. Cigar smoking, by the way, is not a sin unless you smoke one that's ranked lower than a 90, according to Cigar Aficionado. People point at movies and all this other stuff, or overt porn habits, or road rage, and all these totemic view of vice. I said, have you ever lately missed an opportunity to stand up for freedom, family, faith in our flag, and it was right in front of you, and you didn't do it because of, I don't know, it might cost you. You might get looked at weird. You might get flamed on Facebook or Twitter. I go, do you know that cowardice is a sin? And according to Revelation 21, it says all cowards and liars, their part is in the lake that burns with fire and brimstone, and that's called the second death. And Jesus said something to the effect that, hey, if you're ashamed of me and my words in this perverted and adulterous generation, then when you rock up to the Bema seat and you're toe-to-toe with my dad, I'm going to be ashamed of you as well. And Rich, I don't know what that means in the Greek, but it sounds bad, man.
Doesn't sound good to me, Doug.
Yeah, and so the thing that I hit them with is that we have to be courageous when we see something that is completely, you got to be kidding me, stuff that you can't scrape up off your shoe, and stand up for righteousness. The prophetic element has always been the tool of change when there is gross inequities and absurdities in a land. Read the scripture. It always requires timeless truth being spoken to relevant weirdos, that their way is way skewed, and it's going to lead to a ditch. And it might not be popular, but the call is on when you're confronted with it.
And to quote Zombieland, nut up or shut up.
Yeah, and again, you'll get punished, and it could get bad, could lead to all kinds of weird stuff. But you know what? I'd rather stand up for Christ, again, in this weird generation, pay a price, than say nothing while I'm excusing it in my mind about I'll just pray for them or some crap like that. When you should have said something instead. Rich, I'm going to climb off my soapbox. What does the Warrior and Wild Men listener need to do?
They need to go to Warriors and Wild Men. They need to subscribe, rate us, review us. They need to go on our Facebook page, like us, love us, review us there. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you want to talk about. Get a man card. Doug's showing it to you right there. The thing is amazing. It's so awesome. Feels amazing in your hand. Be a man with the man card. Hashtag scar the card. Go to warriorsandwildmen.com. You can get your man card there. Get it. Own it. Bust it all up. Show your friends.
Good stuff, brother. Next week, Judge Janine Pirro. We're going to be talking to the Fox News host. And she's a scrappy dude, brother.
She can throw it down.
All right, man.